Hamas urges return to existing Gaza ceasefire plan. Spectacular Paris Olympics comes to an end. Salam Malaysia Madani, this is World Today. I'm Mohana Priya. Hamas has urged Gaza mediators to implement a truce plan presented by US President Joe Biden instead of holding more talks as Palestinians fled a new Israeli military operation. The statement from the Hamas group came a day after one of the deadliest reported strikes on the besieged Gaza Strip in more than 10 months of war. International mediators had invited Israel and Hamas to resume talks towards a long-sought truce and hostage release deal. Israel has accepted the invitation from the United States, Qatar and Egypt for a round of talks planned for Thursday. Hamas meanwhile said it wanted the implementation of a truce plan laid out by Biden on 31st May and later endorsed by the UN Security Council rather than going through more negotiation rounds or new proposals. Hamas demands that the mediators present a plan to implement what they propose to the group based on Biden's plan and the UN Security Council resolution and compel the Israeli occupation to comply. In Khan Yunis, hundreds of Palestinians fled northern neighborhoods after Israel issued fresh evacuation orders. The military dropped leaflets and sent mobile phone messages warning of dangerous combat in Al-Jalaa district and telling Palestinian residents to leave the area, which until yesterday had been designated a humanitarian safe zone. On a related note, more than 75,000 people have been displaced in the southwest Gaza Strip over the past few days. Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, Felipe Lazzarini, said the displaced Palestinians are going to overcrowded places where shelters are already overflowing with families. Elaborating further on the matter, Lazzarini said that over the decades, Palestinian civilians had been caught up in wars and conflicts far too many times. He noted that the Israeli authorities issued additional orders overnight, forcing more people to flee again and again. He further said that unlike in other wars, the people of Gaza are trapped and have nowhere to go. Yesterday, the Palestine News and Information Agency, WAFA, reported that the Israeli army carried out air raids on several areas in the enclave, including the Nuseirat and Bureij refugee camps in central Gaza, as well as Khan Yunis. The Israeli side has not yet responded to the claim. Elsewhere, Russia has acknowledged that Ukrainian troops had pierced deep into the Kursk border region in an offensive which a top official in Ukraine said aims to destabilize Russia and stretch its forces. A Ukrainian security official said Kiev has deployed thousands of troops to the surprise operation, seizing the battlefield's initiative after months of slow Russian advances across the east. The security official said the aim is to stretch the positions of the enemy, to inflict maximum losses and to destabilize the situation in Russia as they are unable to protect their own border. The assault, now in its sixth day, appeared to catch the Kremlin off guard, with Moscow's army rushing in reserve troops, tanks, aviation, artillery and drones in a bid to quash it. But the army appeared to concede that Ukraine had been able to penetrate its territory by up to 30 kilometers in places. In a daily briefing on the situation in western Kursk region, the Defense Ministry said it had foiled attempts by Ukraine's forces to break through deep into Russian territory using armored vehicles. However, it said some of those forces were located near the villages of Tolpino and Obyshi Kolodez, some 25 kilometers and 30 kilometers from the Russia-Ukraine border, respectively. And in a related development, Kiev and Moscow traded blame after a fire broke out at a cooling tower of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant under the control of Russian forces. Ukraine, Russia and the International Atomic Energy Agency IAEA said there had been no detected spike in radiation levels or any impact on nuclear safety. Russian installed governor of Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia region, Yevgeny Belitsky, said as a result of shelling of the town of Energodar by the Ukrainian armed forces, there was a fire at the cooling system of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russian forces have started a fire at the plant, accusing them of trying to blackmail Kiev. Both Belitsky and Zelensky reported that the radiation background around the facility was normal. IAEA experts witnessed strong dark smoke coming from the plant's northern area following multiple explosions, but said no impact has been reported for nuclear safety. The plant's press service said after the incident that all 6 of its units are currently in cold shutdown. Russia seized control of the plant just days after it launched its military operation in February 2022. The site on the eastern bank of the Dnipro River, a de facto front line snaking through southern Ukraine. Now, prolonged armed conflict in Sudan has incurred severe damage to the country's agriculture sector, triggering an unprecedented food crisis. Erupting last April, the over 1-year clash between the Sudanese Armed Forces SAF and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF have interrupted grain trade and agricultural supply chains, resulting in soaring prices of agricultural machinery, fertilizer, seed and insufficient agricultural production inputs, ultimately leading to a significant reduction in agricultural output.
تماما لأن السودان الآن يعيش في فترة حرب وحتى قبل الحرب هنالك تقارير تبين أن السودان ربما يقع في كارثة بتاعة أمن غذائي حاد لأن الاقتصاد السوداني كان في فترة من الفترات يئن ويترنح وأفرز كثير من السلبيات المعيشية تجاه المواطنين قبل الحرب فما بالك أثناء الحرب.
The armed conflict between the SAF and the RSF broke out in Khartoum on 15th April last year, subsequently engulfing other regions of the country and continues to this day, leaving the nation facing one of the world's most severe refugee crises. It also led to the displacement of around 13 million people. A large number of agricultural workers left their homes, causing a sharp decline in the rate of farmland cultivation. Entering 2024, Sudan's farmland is further reduced as fighting spreads further into the main food production areas of central and southeastern Sudan. Elsewhere, a Spanish non-governmental organization, Open Arms, rescued 44 migrants at sea off the southern coast of the Italian island of Lampedusa. The operation involved an iron boat in distress holding 5 women, 3 children and a baby amongst the group of 44. The skipper of the Open Arms rescue boat gave them life jackets, water and food and stayed with them until the Italian Guardia di Finanza boat arrived to take them to Lampedusa. A controversial plan in Italy to set up detention camps in Albania for migrants picked up at sea was delayed on the 1st of August, with a source close to the matter saying it was a few weeks behind schedule. Earlier, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's government had expressed hope of making them operational by spring. Still ahead, a pilot killed after chopper crashes into Australian hotel. A helicopter crashed into the roof of a Hilton hotel in northeastern Australia, killing the pilot and igniting a blaze on the building's roof. An emergency services official said mangled pieces of the helicopter's propeller landed in the hotel's pool. 2 other bystanders had been taken to hospital in stable condition. Police said the pilot and single occupant of the aircraft were located and declared dead at the scene. Hundreds of patrons were evacuated from the DoubleTree by Hilton in the tropical northern city of Cairns after the twin-engine helicopter crashed around 1:50 a.m. local time. Cairns is a popular tourist hub that offers a gateway to Australia's famed Great Barrier Reef. A team of government experts from the Australian Transport Safety Bureau have been dispatched to the crash site. The Safety Bureau appeals for witnesses to come forward if they had photos or video footage of the aircraft at any phase of the flight or if they heard the helicopter prior to impact. Now, 100% data of the black boxes from the ill-fated plane that crashed near Sao Paulo in Brazil, killing 62 people, has been fully extracted. Chief of the Brazilian Aviation Accident Investigation Center, Marcelo Moreno, said that the flight recorders, which contain voice recordings and flight data, are currently being analyzed. Moreno also said that the French experts, technicians from ATR, the manufacturer of the aircraft, Canadian experts and the engine manufacturer Pratt & Whitney will collaborate with the investigation, along with the Aviation Accident Investigation and Prevention Centre members.
Trago uma nova informação a respeito dos gravadores de voo, normalmente conhecidos como caixas pretas. Relembrando, existem duas caixas pretas, gravadores de voo, o gravador de voz, Cockpit Voice Recorder, e o gravador de dados, Flight Data Recorder. Temos a informação de que conseguimos, 100% de sucesso, obter as informações de voz e informações de dados que correspondem aos momentos que antecederam a esse trágico impacto, esse trágico evento para a sociedade.
Moreno reiterated his intention to release the preliminary report on the aircraft accident within an estimated 30 days. The plane, an ATR 72 turboprop, was bound for Sao Paulo from Cascavel in the city of Kerana and crashed in Vindeno, some 80 kilometers northwest of Sao Paulo. Greece has ordered thousands of people to evacuate as firefighters battled a spate of wildfires, and experts warned of more extreme weather to come this week. Firefighters were battling a dangerous fire near Athens, with smoke covering parts of the capital in a dark haze. The emergency services issued evacuation orders in several towns, including the historic site of Marathon. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis cut short his holiday and returned to Athens to deal with the crisis. A force of more than 400 firefighters backed by 110 vehicles, 29 firefighting aircraft and helicopters was deployed to battle the flames, which in many cases reached more than 25 meters high. By yesterday afternoon, firefighters had quickly dealt with 33 of the 40 blazes that had broken out in the past 24 hours. But the force is battling 7 more in the high Mediterranean summer heat. The temperatures are forecast to peak at 39 degrees Celsius in Greece today, with the highest temperatures expected in the west of the country. The Mediterranean country is exceptionally vulnerable to summer blazes, with this season seeing fires burn daily. After the warmest winter on record, Greece also experienced its hottest June and July since reliable data collection began in 1960. Meanwhile, over in France, Bordeaux residents and tourists alike looked for ways to cool down as the southwestern French city is gripped by a heat wave. Temperatures reached a peak of 39 degrees Celsius, prompting people to flock to fountains and shaded areas, as well as ice cream parlors. Yesterday was the culminating point of a heat wave that swept over France over the weekend, with the south of the country being hit the hardest. Bordeaux, known for its stone buildings and tree-scarce streets, often swelters in summer as natural cooling sources are few. Temperatures, nonetheless, rose up to 33 degrees Celsius in Paris. Europe and the world have faced increasingly warm summers over the past years, with climate change leading to longer and more intense heat waves. Most in Bordeaux were quick to point out the correlation between the global phenomenon and yesterday's high temperatures, saying such peaks were not common a decade ago. Meanwhile, Spain's weather agency, AEMET, predicted intense heat throughout Spain and issued an extreme heat warning for the Basque Country and Cantabria in the north, where the temperature was set to hit 42 degrees Celsius. People wore hats and cooled themselves with fans in the city, while people sought shade under trees and umbrellas. Although the north of Spain is cooler than the south, which bears the brunt of the summer heat, it is not unusual for cities like Bilbao to experience the highest temperature in the country on certain days of the summer. Spain's health ministry urged the people to drink plenty of water, protect themselves against the sun, and pay attention to the young and the elderly. According to the Spanish Weather Service, temperatures are expected to start lowering today.
Bangladesh's new interim government is working to resolve attacks on Hindus and other religious minorities reported after the dramatic ouster of autocratic Premier Sheikh Hasina.
Hindus are the largest minority faith in Bangladesh and are considered a steadfast support base for Hasina's party, the Awami League. After Hasina's abrupt resignation and flight abroad brought an end to 15 years of autocratic rule, there were numerous reports of attacks against Hindu households, temples and businesses. The interim cabinet said the attacks on religious minorities in some places have been noted with grave concern. It said it would immediately sit with the representative bodies and other concerned groups to find ways to resolve such heinous attacks. The statement from the self-styled Council of Advisors, tasked with steering democratic reforms in the South Asian nation of 170 million people, listed numerous urgent priorities. The government, led by Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus, ordered support for the families of protesters who were killed in the weeks of demonstrations culminating in Hasina's departure. It also directed public funds to pay for those injured in the unrest, which began in July and killed more than 450 people.
Venezuela's opposition has called for worldwide protests on the 17th of August to show support for its claimed victory in last month's election over President Nicolas Maduro, who was declared the winner.
Both opposition leaders, Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo González Urrutia, have been in hiding for over a week, with Machado saying recently that she feared for her life, as several other members of the Venezuelan opposition have been reportedly whisked away with no warning. Electoral authorities declared Maduro the winner of the 28 July vote with 52%, but have yet to release a detailed breakdown of the results. The opposition, in contrast, published a large set of data, the legitimacy of which has been denied by Maduro, but backed by the United States and several Latin American countries. Those results showed González Urrutia receiving 67% of the vote, largely in line with pre-election polling. Since coming to power in 2013, Maduro has overseen a national collapse, including an 80% drop in the once wealthy oil-rich country's GDP, amid domestic economic mismanagement and international sanctions. According to the United Nations, more than 7 million Venezuelans have fled the country, of 30 million since 2013.
Global youth unemployment is at its lowest level for 15 years, though not all regions have yet recovered from the COVID-19 slump. The UN's Labour Agency said the number of 15 to 24-year-olds who are not in employment, education or training is concerning, adding that the post-COVID-19 pandemic recovery has not been universal in all regions.
The International Labour Organization said young people in certain regions and many young women are not seeing the benefits of the economic recovery. It noted that at 64.9 million, the total number of unemployed young people worldwide last year was the lowest since the start of the millennium. At 13%, the youth unemployment rate last year represents a 15-year low and a fall from the pre-pandemic rate of 13.8% in 2019. The organization said it expected to fall further to 12.8% this year. The picture, however, is not the same across regions. In the Arab states, East Asia and Southeast Asia and the Pacific, youth unemployment rates were higher last year than in 2019. The Global Employment Trends for Youth 2024 report cautioned over the growing casualization of work for young people and the widening gap in the supply of young graduates and the number of suitable jobs for them to take up. It said too many young people were not in employment, education or training, and opportunities to access decent jobs were limited in emerging and developing economies.
China has an impressive network of over 10 million charging piles throughout the country. According to the National Energy Administration, China has already installed 10.6 million electric vehicle charging piles by the end of July. That's up 53% year-on-year.
To meet the growing charging demands in urban areas, the eastern Chinese cities of Hangzhou and Shanghai have built shared charging stations, enabling charging piles to move intelligently and charge cars autonomously, which has increased the utilization efficiency of charging piles by 3 times. For long-distance travel, the cities of Chengdu and Chongqing have built super-fast charging stations on highways.
我国已经初步建成较为完善的充换电服务体系，运营着全球最大的充换电服务网络。充换电总功率已经超过1.6亿千瓦，能够满足目前2400多万辆新能源汽车的这个充电需求。
So far, more than 1/3 of Chinese provinces have covered all towns with charging facilities. Currently, China has 3.209 million public charging points and 7.394 million private ones.
And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, Hamas urges return to existing Gaza ceasefire plan. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Malaysia Madani, Jiwa Merdeka. I'm Mohana Priya. Thank you for your company.